So welcome back to Coaching Journey 1. Before I go on to week 4, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's left their comments and sent us messages on all the social media platforms. There's been some great feedback and some good interaction. We're just pleased that people are watching the videos and taking things from this journey. And that's what we're trying to achieve. So on to week 4. If you're just looking in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got the game review and targets from Manchester United. So we'll have a brief look at that. We're then moving on to our training week, moving into our next game, which is against Everton. So another big challenge. So we've got a now balance of how we work on some of the things that we need to do better from Manchester United and to some of the things that we want to see moving into Everton. So again, another great week, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So just having a look at the Manchester United game. So this is the main screen from our game plan. So if you haven't seen the video yet, make sure you check out week 3 to catch up. For the ones who have seen it, you'll be familiar with what's on the screen. So we were going to Manchester United operating out of a 4-3-3, moving into a 3-4-3 or 2-4-1-2, depending on our personnel and how Manchester United was set up. So if we're just looking here to the pitch, this is what we expected. As soon as we set up, we could see that Manchester United was set up in a 4-3-3, using a 2 and a 1 in midfield. So 2 deep pivots and a cam. So that set up well for us because we wanted to play a 1 and a 2, and that's something that we worked on. So our main objective was to try pin back the 7-11 and stop them from pressing our centre-backs so we could try get control of the game. So we worked on different movements with a full-back to win the outside and the inside and beyond. Now, early in the game, the full-backs were fantastic and pinned back the 7-11. This then allowed our 2 centre-backs and the goalkeeper to get control of their forward. So that 3v1 situation, then we could then get control and then we could start to look to penetrate the lines. Manchester United then started to jump press from the centre. So they started to bump 2 players onto our 2 centre-backs, which then put a little bit more pressure on the keeper and these 2 players here. What we tend to do is, especially when we're probably working through the season and we're a little bit more switched on to how to adjust within the game, we'll try to keep our 4 operating on this second line so we can break lines. These 2 were quite clever at cutting out passing lines to the 4. Also, we could have moved the ball a little bit quicker to try get that pass into the 4. So we had a spell where we were struggling to actually get control and we started to go a little bit more direct. Although we was very good in the transition, we won majority of them, we wasn't in control possession. And that's what we wanted to see because we knew it was our first game after 7 months that if we were constantly going to work in the transition, we we're going to run out of steam at some point. So we made a decision to get the 4 to operate on the defensive line when in possession. What this then did is to try flatten out the 2 strikers to create space between the lines or beyond the midfield line. And these 3 are technically good players. So holding the ball on a 3v2 with a +1, they were technically good enough to get control around the 2 forwards. What we tended to see is we found the side centre-back quite well, and then we were asking them to fix this line to see if we could start to draw out one of the midfield. And there was loads of good examples of us doing it. And we did get through quite a lot and we created quite a few chances from it. And then Manchester United adjusted and were really organised with the distances between the defensive line and midfield. That's when we should have had better movements from the forward line. So them little 3 movements to win the space between, beside and beyond. But overall, it was good. It was good for us to just get control and see us dominate majority of the game in possession. So just looking at the targets. So obviously our main target is to impose our identity on the opposition, and we did that. Now, how do we do that? Is by trying to tick these clear targets that we give the team before. If you haven't seen this before, go back to week 3 to have a look at our game plan and team identity, and you'll get a feel of what this is about. But if you're looking at this then, so top right defensive transition, so we hit 76%, our target was 60. So we regained the ball back within 3 passes 76% of the time. So we're fantastic in the decisions on finding our mark and changing our mark. Very quick at it, which was good to see. And we kept that out for the majority of the game. We did run out of steam a little bit towards the end of the game, which was expected, but really, really good score for the first game. When we dropped into our defensive organisation, so whether that was a free kick, corner, or the opposition achieved 3+ passes, we became compact. And again, we hit 70%, so we hit our target. So another great score from the team. The one area here where we fell short, 56%, was the attacking transition. Now, we've changed this from second pass completion to third pass completion, so we need to play with this. But when we watched the game back, it wasn't too bad, but the stats wasn't matching up. So we need to have a look at this, and we'll monitor this over maybe 2 or 3 games, because usually we have a second pass completion, which is higher. But one area that we didn't hit. And then if we're looking at the attacking organisation, we haven't put any targets on this yet because we're still working with the team on how it looks and how we want the individuals to analyse themselves. But when looking at how we adjusted from a back 4 to a back 3 and how we controlled the game, from my experience, I would say that would have been a green if we had a target up against them. So you're talking that they've ticked 3 out of the 4, which then gives us a real good opportunity to impose our identity. And they went on and actually won the game. Now, I'm not too fussed about the score and winning. It's more about the performance. But what we do say to the players, if you perform individually and collectively, and we pose our identity, we've got a great chance of winning the game anyway, which the players want to do. So credit to the players, such a big game after 7 months, their emotional control and the way that they could, when things wasn't going right, they could just jump back into being focused around the targets, just showed that how good the players was, and fantastic game overall. Most importantly, just good to see the players back on the pitch after such a long time out. So on to week 4. So hopefully most of you will be familiar with this. We're going to have 3 practices and leading into a game against Everton this week. So I think I mentioned before, it's about balancing out some things that we feel that we need to work on from the last game, and then some things that we need to see moving into the next game. So it's about just getting that balance right for this week. So in session 1, we decided to go with a transition out to in practice. So if you think back to the target of Manchester United where we fell short, it was around the attacking transition. So when we won the ball, so we decided to put a practice on in session 1 around that. So session 2, high press, because we were successful at forcing Man United one way, but there was also a couple of performance problems. We thought that we'd introduce another high press in practice and try to get some of the detail right. And then session 3 is a pre-match practice, very similar to most weeks. So we'll have a work within the individual and do some specific stuff in and out of possession, or we'll just have a fun-based practice where we can get little things out from our game plan. And then we'll have a little talk about what we're going to do and what we want to see against Everton, which is a really, really tough test. They're one of the best academies around. So we know it's going to be a tough game. But again, we just want to go in with a clear idea and let the players just go and enjoy themselves, because it's only still the second game in 7 months. So session 1, transition, out to in. It's the first time that we've put one of these sessions on for the players. So the focus is the performance wheel in possession, and it's technical based. If you don't know what a performance wheel is, make sure you check out video 1 where we go into more depth around the performance wheels. So looking at the practice, real simple practice. It's match day +2, so we don't want to be too intense. Work for about 15 minutes in this. So work for 4 minutes, rest for 1, did it 3 times, small area. And you're just looking at groups of 4 and 5. So we had multiple areas set up. The idea of the practice is just to get a feel of a ball, twisting and turning and finding exit routes. So all the players did is dribble towards the cone, and then they used the insides and outside to twist and turn, keep their body between the ball and the cone, so like they're protecting it, and then exit out and then look for a clean pass. It's a real simple practice, but good to just get the players warmed up, working on specific things within the performance wheel. So on this one here, they were dribbling up, nice sharp turn, releasing the ball back to the player and then giving an angle to receive the ball with an open body shape. So when you're looking at the bottom left-hand side here, so we're getting the scanning in there, we're getting the movement skills, we're getting the receiving with an open body so they can progress, and then you're looking at quality passes. So when they're looking at the releasing skills, making the pass playable. So great little simple practice to use as a warm-up. So moving on to practice 2. So attacking transition, small-sided game. So the reason why we introduced this is because when you look back at our targets against Man U, we were at 56% where we needed to be at 60. So when we were winning the ball, we wasn't finding that second and third pass. We tended to just be looking to go forward too much and then finding ourselves back in a transition. So we just put a little game on with conditions which would help us try to keep possession of the ball when we've won it. Now, we don't want our team to always think about keeping possession, but it's just where we're at the moment. We don't want to be playing in the transition all the time. So we want to get control before we start showing them how to counter or recognizing when to counter. So the area sizes are over here to the left-hand side. The practice outcomes, so available, progress, protect, possess. 25 minutes. Practice load can be medium to high, depending on how much you want them to work. Work rate 4, and then rest for 1. Did that 5 times, medium size area. So 8v8 practice with certain conditions. So when we're talking about available here, whenever the ball's turned over or whenever your team's in possession, we're looking for a minimum of 3 players to support. So be available. So if we're looking at the 5 in possession, 3's available, 8's available, 6's available, and 1 if they're talking to them. So we're looking for a minimum of 3 players being available. Obviously, looking at the progress, so we're looking forward to play forward if we can. If not, then we're looking to protect and move the ball out of the pressure, and then possess where our target falls in, so that finding that third pass. So we still want him to think forward, but recognizing that we need to protect and move out of the pressure zone and then possess to keep possession of the ball. So the conditions of the game was once they scored a goal, coach would then roll in another ball, and for that goal to count, they would have to get 6 passes. So really encouraging the team to just keep possession of the ball and get a feel of moving the opposition around and being patient. Still looking for that forward pass, but being patient with the build-up. So go back to the rules. When either team score, coach rolls a ball into one of their 3 players, and for the goal to count, they're looking to get 6 passes. So moving on to session 2, high press, something that we did well against Man U, but there was a couple of little performance problems that we wanted to run over and try to help the players work on their technique of how to cut out passing lines. It just saves them doing extra running. So this was a little practice that me and my assistant have actually designed, and it's something that we want to develop throughout the season. So it was new to the players and new to us. So the idea was to try create a pattern so we could work on some of the techniques of pressing. So put this practice together, 3 parts. So as you can see, there's 3 reds and 3 whites. So we'll start off with a passing pattern. So just to paint you a picture here, this could be a centre-back playing into midfield who plays it out to a full-back. So that was the idea in our head. So the centre-back plays into the midfield, midfielder plays it out to the full-back, and then the full-back would travel with it and look to progress. Hopefully that sort of makes sense in your mind. So if you see the picture, centre-back's got the ball, plays it into midfield, midfielder plays it out to the full-back who would be free. But within this, we're getting the players to really work on their passing techniques and receiving skills. And this would just be part of the warm-up. So now moving on to part 2. So I'll just rewind that slightly. So the ball goes into the centre-back, and then our 7, so our wide forward, presses the centre-back. So just to show you, so this is what we want to replicate in the game. And just pause it there. And this is our 2, and that's our midfielder. So remember that that's their centre-back looking to play into midfield and use the link pass into the full-back. So this is one of our patterns. What we're working on here is we're working on the pressing angles and technique. And then we're talking to the 2 about when they're going to release and change the mark onto the full-back. We allowed this to happen. So it was just about getting there and just tagging the player, not tackling them. So we're saying to the 8, get there and just tag them. They carry on playing. And we're just looking at a timing. So we allowed the first 3 passes unopposed. So again, we're just going in, tagging them, getting the timing. Once they've played into the fullback, we allowed them just to play a 3v3 game. And all we were saying is if the Reds can just break across the line, they get a point. If Whites win it and break across the line, they get a point. So the first part is structured for things that we want to bring out so we can work with the players. And then the second part is just a little game for the players. So again, just to show you, ball goes into the centre-back and we're looking to change the mark here. So that's where you can work on your technique. Midfielder, can he tag the 10 as he's releasing the ball? And then the same here. And then into the 3v3 game. We did introduce that you could get 3 passes to get a point or win the game as well. So they didn't spend too long in the game. It was just something that we added as a session was on, because some of the games were going on for 2 or 3 minutes when actually we really wanted to work on the high pressing techniques. And the third part, slightly different scenario. So centre-back's got possession of the ball again. So the wide forwards change the mark. They're going to use that link pass again. But now the midfielder changes the mark and the 7 recovers on the inside. And it's a 3v2 game. So again, that first part is structured and bring out the stuff that we want. And then the second part's the chaos in the game. So it's just a little practice that we put together. So it'd be good to see what your thoughts are around that. If you think you'd use it, if there's anything that you think you'd progress it with, even if there's something that you don't like, drop your comments in below. But it'd be good to see what you think about this session. And it worked well. It took us a while for the players to get used to playing unopposed then into a game. But once we got it going, it was really good. And we eventually want to just use this as like a warm up, just to refresh the technique around pressing, changing the mark, finding the mark. So we moved into a practice where we cut off the pitch. We wanted to force a ball to their left centre half. So we thought we'd stick with this theme. So we cut off the pitch here. And then this was due to obviously some of the numbers as well for within our squad. So we've got them set up in a back three. So you've got the 2 centre backs and left back. You've got the 2 midfielders and the 10. And then you've got their wide forward. And then with us, we've got our 9, 7, 2 attacking midfielders, and then deep pivot and full back. Practice outcomes: desire, deny, deflect, defend. 20 minutes we did it for. Medium to high, area size medium. So Red's objective was get the ball and score in the wide goal here for 1 point. And if they're scoring a big goal, they got 2 points. We actually took this out early doors, so it was all like channeled towards a central goal. So we only kept this in for about 5-10 minutes and then moved it out. But what it does is, if you're getting the fullback to focus on stopping that forward pass, so that space down the side, so you can actually work with your 2 on the technique of stopping that sideward pass. So as you can see there, 9 locks in, 7 changes the mark, and then you've got the picture from the technical practice that we did before. So plays into midfield, but now we're allowing him to win it. Fullback getting ready to change the mark as well. So as you can see, it's a similar picture from the session that we designed before. Performance problem. So if the fullback comes on the inside and finds a direct pass, the 2 stays and the 7 must recover quickly. So we're looking at sprint recovery because they haven't cut that pass out. 9 locks on. Now, a couple of times they got out and played this side. Now, that's where our opposite wide forward would come in. But because of the numbers, we couldn't recreate that. So force the pass inside. And then this is where you get what we brought out in the drill before. So if they can win that in there, fantastic. If not, we'll win it on the link pass. That link pass gives our fullback extra time to get there. If Whites win the ball, then they just go scoring a goal. And then what we did introduce was, we stopped the game a couple of times, was the midfielder jumping as well, just to save the legs of the fullback. So that same scenario, that second picture we had in the technical drill. So 7's recovered on the inside, 9 into its normal position. And then obviously the attacking midfielders jump pressed outside. 2 stays in to keep organised. Everybody else finds a mark. So hopefully you can see them pictures come out from the drill before. Keep the game flowing. But when you see the opportunity to jump in and coach these points, or if you see a technical point, just go in and coach it. So on to session 3, pre-match practice, and we're just looking at some movements to score. So we've actually done this practice before, and in this video it just shows that it starts off with a passing practice, but we just put the keeper in right at the start because of the numbers that we had and what we wanted to get out of the practice. So the focus was just looking at the individuals, looking through their sort of performance wheel, so scan, move, receive, release. When we're talking about release, we're also looking at a finishing skill as well. So just to show you, so we're really focusing on the 4 movements. So just to show you there, so works below the mannequin, then receive the ball beyond. Now just remember this was all a finish on goal. So we're just looking at the timing. So can you manipulate the defender, plant your foot, and then accelerate, so full speed, and receive the ball. We're also looking at the releasing skills of the pass, so making sure the pass is playable so that it doesn't break their running stride. Next one was just going to work beside the mannequin. So can they see the mannequin, the ball, and the next move? So really encouraging these practice outcomes and working on each part of the individual process. Next movement was to just work beside. So just come off on an angle and then just run across the mannequin. Now what we said is, depending on the touch, they could go beyond or they could go in front. But the idea is that play towards a mannequin, you take it on the move. You're trying to get to a level where no one's breaking their running stride, so the timing's right and it's nice and smooth. And then the last movements is just to work beyond to try to take the defender away, create the space below, get on the turn, and then we just use the third man here. So the play him in and looking to score. Movements beyond, below, half turn to progress, and looking at a good pass. So for the players, a bit of fun while working through their individual movements and an individual performance wheel. Seen this practice before, one of our favourites. So 8v8 game, set up in a 4-3 formation. So for instance, if you're a white player here, if you've got the ball and you play it into the whites and score, it's worth 2. If you score from your own area, it's worth 1. What we said is, if you play into the white successfully, one of the whites can go and join in to create a 4v4. What we are encouraging with the players is like to find pockets of space to receive, to get a shot off. If they can't shoot, can they find someone who else can shoot? But short, sharp play, making it competitive. How you want to make it competitive is up to you. You can put first to 3 minutes on the clock, whatever you want to do, but make it competitive but fun. So on to the Everton game plan. Performance over result. So we decided not to change the game plan too much and try to focus on the same things that we did against Manchester United. See if we can replicate some of the stuff that we did against Man U and see if we can get better on some of the stuff. So we decided to go with a very similar game plan, or maybe just 1 or 2 things that we wanted to see slightly different. So we're travelling to Everton, playing a 4-3-3, which then moves into a 3-4-3 or a 2-3-2-3. So that's slightly changed because we want to try keep that one pivot and not move to a double pivot unless we have to adjust out of possession. So team identity and targets. As we know, we want to impose our identity on the opposition in the 4 moments of the game. So language is press. Nearest players apply quick pressure. So we're looking at 1, 2, or 3 players doing that. The target is 60% plus again. So regain the ball within 3 passes. We don't want to push the targets too high yet. If we don't win the ball back in the 3 passes, drop into our defensive organisation. So the language is compact. So we're looking at vertical and horizontal compactness. You're looking at 40 metres to 44 metres. So that's covering the 3 nearest channels to the ball. The target is 60% plus regains in the front 2/3. So can we win the ball high up the pitch? Attacking transition, something that we fell short of in the last game. So really want to hit this target in this game. Language is available, so 3 options. Behind, between and below. 60% target again. Obviously that's a 3rd pass completion, so we need to see where we're at 60% with a 3rd pass completion. Underneath, high impact, low risk. So what we're saying is, if you see a high impact ball when you've won it, with a low risk, play it. That might be a counter-attacking option. And then the attacking organisation, we're still working with the players in this, so we haven't dropped a target in there yet. This is just something that we'll just oversee and keep an eye on. So when we're talking about connections, is how do we go from one system to the other? How are we working together in units? And then we're just trying to get the individuals to think about their movements to win the ball. But we'll do a presentation on that, on what we're trying to get across to the players. So there's the targets. So on to the defensive transition. Again, we just use the same videos. So language press, regain the ball back in 60 seconds. So we just give them examples of teams doing it. And some of you who have seen this will understand what we're doing. So again, I'll just pause that there. So we lost possession of the ball, nearest player to apply pressure. That might be 1, 2 or 3 players applying pressure. Everybody around there is finding their mark quickly and stopping them forward passes. But what we want to do is get players being aggressive as soon as we lose the ball. We've got some great clips of us doing it already against Man U. So hopefully we'll be able to show you some clips, if not some screenshots, depending on what I'm allowed to show. If not, I'll put some videos into animations and show you some of the moments that happened in the game. So this here is just showing the players what it looks like in our identity of what we want to do. If we need to, then it might have to be a clever foul. So defensive organisation. So can we win the ball back high up the pitch? First thing that we're saying though is make sure we get into a compact state. So if we don't win that ball back in them 3 passes, if we force the ball backwards, we should be able to get organised. So we're looking at an organised state, vertical compactness, horizontal compactness. We're looking to fill 3 to 4 nearest channels to the ball. Trying to force the ball around us, not through us. Backline always aware of the long ball. So making sure that they're twisting the hips and ready to win any race that goes beyond. So jumping off that front foot to win the race. Can they manipulate the forwards? So can they win the duel before? So it might be a little shove the forward one way while you go and win the race and there's no pressure on the ball. So onto this one now, centre forward lock in the play. So as you can see, we've been working on this week. So there's your 7 jump pressing. So that practice that we designed, that technical session, this is what we're seeing. So these are a couple of things that we really want to get right against Everton. So the detail of the press, cut out the direct pass. If they're playing to midfield, first opportunity of winning the ball. If there's a link pass, it gives our fullback more time to get on the ball. And can we double press? 9 ready to slide across, 11 to affect the opposite fullback. So these are the things that we've really talked about. Backline getting across quickly as well. Keeper sweeping up that space behind. If we do win it, we've got plenty of options to break. And we've got some good clips against Man U where the fullback plays to the second centre-back and we nick it. We should have gone on and scored. So the other scenario that we've worked on this week, again forcing the ball down the left-hand side. Now, just one thing, the reason why we're forcing them down the left-hand side is because for us, there's not many left centre-backs, so we know they're going to be right-footed. So we know they're going to tend to play on the inside, which then sets up our trap. So we actually win the ball quite a bit in here as well on that first pass. Now, if they're left-footed, they can open up quicker and probably curl it around them, which gives us a few more problems, which means the 7-11 has to go in. And also, usually the right centre-half, if you're looking over games, it's usually a centre-back who's played there for quite a long time. So they're quite smooth at building the attack. So we just like to force a ball to left centre-half to start with, just to get a feel of it. And that doesn't mean that there isn't good left centre-halves out there, because in certain games, we've played out to left centre-half and they've been probably the best centre-back, so we've had to change the press. So move it to the other side. It just gives you an idea of why we're forcing the ball left, if you were wondering. So that second scenario now was, if they do get that link pass, we'll get the midfielder to jump and the 7 to recover. So going back to that technical drill that we worked on, this is where you're looking for the 7 to recover and 9 to come across. So this is where we got the picture from designing that practice. Something that we've not worked on, but it's just there. We're planting seeds with the players, so they'll know that this will come. So every time they're looking at these videos, they'll see this, and this is something that we'll go to over the next couple of weeks and start to introduce the team, just so we're not being predictable. The idea is, after 5 or 6 games, we should be able to adjust to press from central areas or wide areas. And then as we progress from there, we'll start to set traps in certain areas against certain teams. So another video, just attacking transition, so securing possession. So again, we just show the players the videos all the time, so they're getting a feel of what it looks like. We will change these videos for clips of us doing it. Again, just winning the ball and finding that 3-pass completion, unless you can play forward and hurt the opposition early. And we'll go into more depth of how we put these stats together and how we analyse the game, but we'll do that later on in the season. And then attacking organisation, again, just some videos of what it looks like. So again, just the connection, when I was talking about connections, 2 centre-backs and the 4, how are they working together? You've got your left centre midfielder, left forward and left back. How are they working together? And then the same on the opposite side. The 9 player is usually what we call the free player. So they'll operate around the 2 centre-backs. And if we really want to get control of midfield, we'll allow them to come in. So we might play with a midfielder in this role if we really wanted to dominate that midfield area. And the keeper's class as our second free player. But again, just showing the players some ideas, something that we've not gone into too much, but we're just planting them seeds so they know it's coming. And again, just here, so team shape in 4 to 5 seconds, only 1 player allowed out the system. So as we go through, this will become part of the target. So getting our shape really quickly once we're in the organisation. So if you think about the attacking transition, we achieve the 3 passes, we should be into our attacking organisation, only allowing for 1 player to be out of position or disconnected. And this is just something that we're working with the players on now, on how we want to analyse it. Again, just drip feeding what it looks like and what we're looking for. Just gives you an idea. When we're talking about low wide forward, so we actually have 3 movements between this connection. And again, we're just trying to work out which movements would suit our personnel, and that's why we've not gone into it too much. But just to give you an example, this is obviously a wide forward low and a left back inside, and then the cam's high. So this is one of the connections that we'll work on. But again, we're just trying to find out which personnel would suit this movement. Or we might get to a point where we don't think this would suit us, and we'll just look at one of the other movements. But we'll go into more information as we go on about this. So performance plans are some of the things that we're really looking at. So like Manchester United, we're looking at the variations of building the attack. So we want to get comfortable building that 5, which we did well against Man U. And then just looking at that high press, so forcing the opposition down one side. Just something that we give to the players. So about finding mark and changing the mark. So on the sideline, you'll hear us using this language all the time. As soon as a ball's turned over, you'll hear us shouting, find the mark. Find the mark is example here. So if you're looking at number 2, is the left forward. So if you're looking here, that is their mark. I'm not saying you have to go and stand next to them, but just make sure you've got eyes on them. So the ball might be down this side of the pitch, and we might have covered the 3 nearest channels, but does he know where his mark is? One thing that we've got in here as well, if you're looking at the midfielders, so if you're looking at the 8, their change the mark is the fullback. So if we're looking at the 8 here, thinking about the pressing, 7 presses the left centre half, 8 change the mark will be the fullback. So that's just something that we were going to keep an eye on this week. But hopefully this makes sense about finding mark and changing the mark. And when we get into how we work systems-wise, because we don't play in a 4-3-3 all the time, we like to change the systems depending on what the opposition are doing. So hopefully we'll give you a bit more of an insight around what systems match up well against other systems and what it looks like on finding the mark and changing the mark then. But at the moment, we know that most teams are playing 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, so we don't have to do too much of that yet. So forcing the opposition one way, here's the roles and responsibilities. What we expect, so centre forward, find the mark, so right centre back, because remember, we're trying to force them onto the left centre back. And then left forward, going onto the right back. So we're really overloading one side and forcing them one way. So we'll go through it. But if you want to have a read of these, just pause the video and have a look. But this is what we're looking at. Find your mark, find your mark, find your mark. Midfield locked on, 2 centre backs, full backs. Really going to exaggerate getting next to our mark on this side and saying, there you go, there's your pass. So give them the first pass. And then just working on the techniques that we've worked on throughout the week. Cut out direct pass, so you don't have to recover and do extra work. Force the ball inside shoulder, see if we can nick it so they don't turn and spin out the other way and find the 7. If we can win it, brilliant. If not, we're forcing the link pass, but we're making it difficult for them. Just a couple of performance problems which I've just talked about. To find that pass there, so they've got the technique wrong, or it might be just good play from the centre half. 7's got to recover and we stay organised behind the ball. Or one of the scenarios, that we saw at Man United is, I'll just rewind that slightly, is they played the direct pass and the fullback went. But because the direct pass was clean, he wasn't going to get there on his first touch, which then left a 3v3 on the back line. And they actually opened it up and put it down the side of the channel, end up with a corner. So that was really important that we got into the fullbacks about, if it's a direct pass, stay at home, stay with your mark. So that was one of the things that came out. So we want to see us be better at that when we're playing Everton. And then obviously the other scenario is the fullback stays at home and the 8 presses, which we've gone through a couple of times now. And then just building the attack. Again, you've got the roles and responsibilities here, which I don't need to run through. You can pause it and have a look. Can you occupy the 9 and 7, 9 and 11, and look to build? pin back the opposition, midfield and defensive line. And then you've just got a couple of scenarios that this will run through. So it'll be interesting to see how we do this week, because we haven't worked on it. We decided to go for one of the transition drills and high pressing. So it'll be interesting to see how we perform at this within the game. And from my experience, they usually struggle if you don't work on it. You've got to at least get 6 to 7, maybe 8 sessions in before they get used to doing this regular and doing it well. Again, just the scenarios. Plenty of ways of getting out, but also if it breaks down, we've got 4 bodies behind the ball in central areas as well, so it's hard for the opposition to get a clean break on us. And then next week we'll start to work on this again, but different ways of playing out, so our fullbacks beyond the 7-11. So coming next week is week 5. So we'll do a review of how Everton goes, and we'll talk about the pros and cons and some of the performance problems that they'll give us. Now, we know they'll give us different problems than what Man United did, so that might tweak how the sessions look. But at this moment in time, we want to be moving on to building the attack in a couple of different variations. So making sure that we're clean on variation 1 and we understand it, but then having other different ways of getting out against different presses. We want to get to a point where we're 2 or 3 ways of building the attack. We'll look at some out of possession stuff, and that'll depend on how we do against Everton. So whether we stick with a similar theme, flip it to the other side, or we look to press from the inside. And then we're going to actually introduce the players to one of the attacking set players. And then we're going to move into the game plan around Middlesbrough. So another tough game. But another great week. I hope you've enjoyed week 4. You know, it's been a great week for us. We will start to go into a little bit more in-depth stuff around the tactics and things that we want to do.